Story time. Why I never went to law enforcement. In 2020, and then again in 2023, and once more last year, I noticed that when I went into the settings of my vehicles, there was some proprietary software installed on my vehicles in the settings. This came up like in the settings general, possibly like the about, or in the section where you would do a software update. On my vehicles, there was law enforcement software, and all I remember is it was law enforcement software, and it said something about MIT, like in the security certificates or in the about part of it. All I knew is it didn't come standard. When I Googled it, I knew this wasn't something that came with the vehicle. I knew in 2020 that this was law enforcement software. But I got my vehicle from like a side lot, like a pay weekly side lot. So I was sure that they didn't install it. Over the course of my investigation, I had to recall events. And I recall an event from 2020 where, I won't say their relationship, a young man drove me out to a mobile home in China, Texas, where he stated that he said retired. He stated a retired, well, I'm not sure, maybe retired FBI agent, or, he may have just said an FBI agent. I may have just been thinking retired, but I was thinking retired based on the fact that I had met the FBI agent's son. Matter of fact, the FBI agent's son rode with us. So the FBI agent's son was probably in his early 40s. So I would guess that the FBI agent was in his 60s. So I just guessed he was retired. I'm not sure if that was said. But I recall the young man that gave me a reason for going out to China, Texas, which is about 20 miles outside of where the community was. He came up with some reason that in hindsight, it really didn't back up why we were going there. We went there, he went inside, I sat in the driveway with the car on for about 20 or 30 minutes, and we left. And it was soon after that that I discovered this software installed on my vehicle. I didn't know as much about technology then as I did now, and I didn't suspect that law enforcement was on the payroll of this Coulter Coven. But when I started to look into things last year, this same software was on a second vehicle that I got. I really had no idea why this software was there. At one point, I thought maybe law enforcement is investigating me, but I could never see what need they would have to install software on my vehicle. And towards the end of last year, I came to the realization, which I believe that young man that drove me out there is someone that is involved with this cult and coven. His whole family are involved in this Coulter Coven. And that FBI agent that lives in China, Texas, with the son, who's probably like in his early mid 40s now, he must also be involved with this cult or coven, and whatever software he installed on my vehicle, I believe, because I've never been around another agent, whatever software, it allowed these gang stalkers to track everywhere my car went. I tried to erase it and I couldn't. I tried to take it to the dealership. They couldn't remove it. And as far as I knew, I didn't think law enforcement could just install. And if they did, I was wondering where's the warrant for that. But that's why I never trusted law enforcement. Because if this law enforcement agent could install software on my vehicle, what else could he do? What else could they do if I spoke about this cult or coven, especially since this law enforcement agent seemed to have ties with this cult or coven? That's why I just moved silently, investigated silently, and decided I will post my story now that I'm at a safe distance. But I feel, due to people like federal agents being on these people's payroll, that's probably the reason many people don't speak out of fear. But I wasn't afraid. I never was. I just wanted to speak where it would make the biggest impact. And due to law enforcement agents and cops being on the payroll, I didn't feel like that was by pressing charges. I actually feel as if this law enforcement agent has a daughter that's one of the major thieves, and he's probably been hiding the police reports about her criminal activity. That's just a theory. I've seen them both in the same building at the same time, but like I said, it's just a theory. I'm not sure if they're related or not. But that's my story, why I don't trust law enforcement. Good night. God bless.